Transmission.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Open Eyes Network News. We wanted to bring you another Mandela Effect experience video. This one is one that Jolene had as a personal experience. And again, this is one that nobody else has had. This is, again, a personal experience, much like our previous video where we were talking about the catch-up experience with me and her and the differences that were going on with that. You guys can catch that video on our channel. Again, youtube.com/C/Open Eyes Network to check out all of our videos, not just our Mandela Effect videos. But I wanted to bring Jolene on to this one because of a personal experience that she's had that we can look back on and say, yes, that probably was a Mandela Effect experience occurring. So, Jolene, why don't you go ahead and tell us the story about what happened to you at your sister's grave?
Okay. Well, let me kind of rewind it a little bit and just kind of give you a little idea of things. I had three brothers, and I knew who they were, but I had no sisters. My mom and me, we were living with a boyfriend of hers, and I was young. I was between, I don't know for sure how old I was when this happened. I was either between kindergarten and second grade. I want to say I was in first or second, though. And I really wanted a sister because I didn't have any sisters. I only had brothers. So I remember distinctly that I would pray for a sister. You know, I would just keep thinking of, I want a sister, I want a sister. I hope that my mom and her boyfriend, I hope they have, a baby, and I hope it's a sister. I just really wanted a sister. And I remember there was one day that my family and we went to this place. I didn't know where we were going. And we get to this place, and it's like fall time, and there's leaves on the ground, and we're at a graveyard. And we're walking around. No, actually, I think I was in kindergarten because I couldn't read very well. I was probably in kindergarten. Maybe first grade. I don't know.
Right around there, yeah.
Around there, yeah. I couldn't read very well. I just remember that part. And I remember it was me and my cousin, and we're the same age. I'm only like a month older than my cousin. We're there, and we're looking around at the different graves. We're not straying too far from the adults. And I remember my aunts and uncles were consoling my mom, and they're like just giving her a hug, and they're like, I'm so sorry. And they're kind of standing around this one grave, and I don't understand why. And the family also comes up to me, and they're like, I'm so sorry, Jolene, and they hug me, and I'm just like, okay, because I have no idea what's going on, why they're saying I'm sorry. And we're looking at all these different graves, and we don't know who any of these people are. And me and my cousin, we eventually get over to the grave, and it's a black marble grave. It's got dark gray, almost a black.
It's
and
the flecked type one.
Yeah,
right?
and it's got the silver specks to it,
Right.
the gray specks to it. And it had a picture of a girl. And I recognized the picture of the girl, but I couldn't put, I didn't know who she was, but the picture of her looked familiar. And then the first name, me and my cousin kind of figured out the name was Stephanie, but the last name, we had no idea how to pronounce it. We couldn't figure it out, and it wasn't a name we recognized, so we didn't know who this person was and why everyone's focused on this one grave. And I remember that I went home that night, and my mom was tucking me in, and she said, you know that lady, that grave that we saw? I said, yeah. She said, do you know who that was? I said, no. And she said, that was your sister. And it was just a big shock, because I never knew I had a sister. I knew that I had... I'm sorry. I knew that I had my brothers, but I didn't know that I had my sister. So it was just a big shock to me to find out that I had a sister and I didn't even know it. And to find out the night that I saw her grave and I was there and I didn't even know that that's who she was. So it was a big shock to me. And after she said that, I started remembering seeing pictures of her when we lived before we moved into the boyfriend's house. Now, what's interesting is years later, see, we never really talked about her after that. And I remember years later, I was just casually talking to my mom and mentioning, oh, yeah, I remember going to see the grave. And my mom's like, what do you mean? And so I tried to describe to her, yeah, I remember all of us going there, and me and my cousin, we were walking around. We didn't know who these people were. We couldn't even pronounce half the names, and we could figure out what her first name was. We really couldn't figure out how to pronounce the last name because she has a different last name than me, because she has a different dad than me. And she says, no, you've never been to the grave. I said, well, then how come I remember this? She says, I don't know, but you've never seen the grave before. And I described to her what the grave looked like. And then she pulls out, she goes ahead and brings out pictures, and she's like, this is what it looks like. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I was saying. And she's like, you are right. She's like, how did you know what it looked like when you've never seen it? So it was just, she couldn't understand how it is that I had seen it, because she was buried. She's from and she was buried in a completely different state than we live in. So that was the huge,
Right. So why the family members were there, your cousin was there, everybody was there, and yet you don't have any memory of going on a trip to a different state. You don't have any memory of coming back home after this event occurred. Nothing like that ever. It was a very short trip from
it was a short
from home
trip
to the grave and back.
Mm-hmm.
There's no interstate travel going on with all of it. And yet then your mother tells you you've never been to the grave, yet you know that you were at the grave.
Yeah, which is interesting because, like I said, that was the only day that we ever talked about her.
Right.
Because at that point in time, I won't deny, I was hurt and crushed that
you had a sister, but didn't know it.
Yeah, it took her death for me to find out that I had a sister.
Right.
I knew I had my one brother, and I knew that my one brother, who at that point in time, I don't think I had even met him yet, but he was put up for adoption.
Right.
But I knew about him, but I didn't know about this sister, who was actually a sibling to my one brother that I saw every year. So it just didn't make any sense to me why it is that every Christmas my one brother would come down and visit us, and yet this sister of mine that just died, they were full brother and sister.
Right.
So how is it she didn't, why didn't she come down? So it was just confusing.
A very bizarre experience that I think could fall within this whole Mandela effect. You experienced something that is outside of the memories of those that are around you that you tried to speak to about this. They didn't have the same experience that you did, and yet you have this distinctive memory of the experience. That's what the Mandela effect is all about.
Yeah, it was always one of the weirdest things that had ever happened to me, because I remember seeing the grave. I remember me and my cousin walking around looking at the graves, and I remember us talking to each other. Do you know what's going on?
Right.
I don't know what's going on.
And the reason why it sticks out so much in your memory as well is because the conversation that your mother had with you that night, saying that this was your sister, and you had been praying for this sister all along, and yet she never existed to you.
Yeah, I mean, I was, and I won't deny, after she had left the bedroom, because she was tucking me in when she told me about it, after she had left, I was completely amazed that my prayer had come true. I was just
disappointed because it was a person that was dead at that point.
Yeah, well, it put into huge perspective the whole "careful what you wish for" might come true, just not the way you expect it to, So when that happened, I was just exhilarated that it came true, but at the same time, why didn't I know? If I already had a sister, why is it I didn't know? That was the biggest, and especially too, because she died when I was young. So why is it I didn't, it just never made any sense to me of why I never knew, why I didn't know when her full sibling came down and visited all the
Right.
time? How is it that we've never brought her up?
It's like she was the sister that never really was.
Yeah, it's like, why is it that when my one brother, like I said, the full brother of her, would come down and visit, why the discussion never came up about her? Why, it wasn't until after this that I started to learn about her.
Right.
And it was from other members of the family.
So maybe in this experience, what you went through was you came actually from a place where you didn't have a sister, and one reason or another, you have entered into a reality where you did have that sister, but she had passed away. So you're originally from a reality where no sister existed.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm just tossing that out as a possibility.
It's an idea. I know. It just didn't make any sense.
Yeah. Well, if you guys want to comment below on maybe experiences that you have that are similar, please do. Make a comment below and make sure that you share this, because this is really a big one, I think, as far as the Mandela Effect experience is concerned. It's a very bizarre, personal experience. And if you guys have had kind of similar experiences, let us know. We would love to hear about it, because I think we're going to start seeing more and more people talking about exactly this kind of thing, the more that this Mandela Effect thing starts to really take effect. If you guys want to listen to all of our shows, we air Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You guys can catch all of the archives right here at youtube.com/C/Open Eyes Network. You can also find all of our archived shows at openeyesnetwork.com. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you can get all of our newest videos, notifications right there. We put out videos every day. So make sure you come back here every day and see what we bring you. At least one video every day is coming out. So we're bringing you a lot of good stuff. So until next time, keep safe out there and have fun. And thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. We'll talk to you again soon.